G'day guys, my name's Joe. I thought I'd put together a couple of videos in relation to specifically my particular injury, which was dual herniated disc of L5-S1. The reason I felt the need to put these videos up is because going through all the videos online, which there are obviously several already there to sort of sift through, and I've gone through so many. Probably possibly what you're currently doing yourself. Everybody touched on, obviously their personal experience with physical recovery, specifically physical, but I never come across videos where people spoke about the mental side of it, the psychological warfare, I'm going to call it, that comes with the territory and comes with such injuries. And I felt the need to speak about that because for me, not going to lie, it was definitely has been the darkest mentally and physically I've ever been in my life. I myself would consider myself quite headstrong. I run a successful business, quite active. Refer to myself as like just a winner, just always wanting to be positive, always seeking the positives out of any situation. I'm the one that, my friends come to and they're down and, they're down the dumps or something bad is, taking a turn, to prop them up and push them through, say, come on, we got to get, you got to get through this. We can do this, you can do this. So to be in the place that I was in was difficult to say the least. Thankfully, everything is going really, really well on that sort of aspect. Same with the recovery of the injury itself. Thankfully, I'm now week 3 post-op. But this first video is basically going to be a little bit of background leading up to the injury, and then what I felt and dealt with up until the surgery itself. So start off just quickly. I'm in construction. Our job is quite physical. It's not uncommon to have a sore back, a sore shoulder, a sore leg, a sore limb. It comes in the territory. I mean, we're quite physical, sometimes lifting, and obviously day-to-day activities do vary. I was doing nothing different than been doing, my whole career. I went home with tender sort of tight back, enough that it was, it stopped me from wanting to go to the gym that afternoon. And I felt the need that, like my body's telling me, something's quite tight there. You obviously need to rest. Let's not go exert yourself, and rest and recover. So did that. Unfortunately for me, for about 2 weeks, so approximately 2 weeks after that afternoon, I had woken up the next morning, and then I felt the sensation of the sciatica, typical sciatica pain in my left glute, and it ran all the way down into my calf. It didn't run down past the calf, but it was essentially just on enough that it was stopping me from walking freely. I sort of was starting to sort of have that little bit of a hobble, and I could feel the sensation. Not aggressive pain by any means. It was just a lot of discomfort, enough that I could feel it every time I would apply the clutch in the car and walking upstairs and stuff like that. But again, what ended up happening with work is I wasn't able to participate in any of the lifting and jackhammering and all that sort of stuff, materials handling. It was purely just supervising for those 2 weeks. Now, what I found in those 2 weeks was it just didn't get better. Where usually you would think that if I wasn't training and I was stopping all the the labor intense sort of side of things, and I was sure I was going to work, but I wasn't participating, as I said, in anything that would aggravate it, bar walking and sitting really. I was going chiro, I was going physio, I did some acupuncture. I did massage in that 2 week period quite aggressively. And again, my body wasn't receptive to any of the treatments. Sort of just stayed the same. Getting a bit frustrated, but I just thought, okay, just stick to it. It'll get better. It'll come good. And then one afternoon, again, came home from work, and it was excruciating. I was like, I haven't done anything big today. I said, guys, I'm going to leave a bit early. It's sciaticus really come on quite strong. So I came home, took some Voltaren tablets, some Panadol, which is just some paracetamol. Typically that would, I thought that would just take that edge off, and unfortunately it didn't. The edge it was so acute, the pain, and it was getting worse and worse to the point where, like, normally if it was really hurting, if I laid down, it would sort of suppress the pain, but again, it wouldn't. I'd laid on my belly, laid on my side, lifted my leg up with pillows. Nothing. So it kept getting worse, to the point where approximately a few hours later, I had a relative over, and I asked them to take me to the hospital, in which I couldn't walk by the time we had driven there. They gave me a wheelchair. I got a wheelchair in. I was in so much pain. They gave me 2 Panadine Fort, which has the codeine in it. They gave me 2 Valiums, and they couldn't get me off the wheelchair. They later gave me morphine, and then that eventually took away the pain enough that they could conduct a CT scan, in which they stated that there is a herniated disc from what they could see, or bulging disc, I think is what they said, not herniation. They didn't specify herniation, but they said that you can see compression on the nerve, and this is what it is. So they then advised bed rest and see the GP, your local GP, local doctor, and then go through, I guess, a remedy through him, and go through whatever he dictates, or he or she dictates, and then go from there. But unfortunately, I went home that evening. The pain had obviously regressed with the meds, of course. I came home that evening. I went to sleep. I didn't have a broken sleep. I actually slept in my normal 7-8 hours, whatever it was. But once I woke up in the morning and I actually went to attempt to get out of bed that next morning, I physically could not get out of bed without absolute excruciating pain. It was absolutely devastating. I can't explain. I mean, some of you may be able to understand, but I literally couldn't move, and I couldn't even get my wife or I rang siblings and relatives that live locally and said, could you please come and assist me, take me to the hospital again? But it was no good. It was no use. Anytime someone touched me or tried to lift me or lift my leg, it was just like, I couldn't handle the pain. It was just screaming in pain. So then we decided to call the ambulance. The ambulance sent out the medics, obviously, and then same thing. I described what I'd gone through the previous night, and they sort of essentially in the end, after reluctantly doing so, they ended up giving me the morphine, because the other stuff was just it wasn't doing anything, where typically, it put anyone, at ease. So really aggressive pain relief. That got me into the hospital, directly to the hospital, and it's where this sort of psychological warfare, I guess you could say, started. I spent approximately a week and a half in one hospital. I'm not going to mention names, because this isn't about bad-mouthing the hospitals or the system or whatnot. That's another topic. But went to the first hospital to find essentially that they had confirmed that there was herniation after a CT. They advised that I should go, after a week and a half of basically feeding me opioids and morphine, and I was just in so much pain. It take the pain, honestly, from a 10 to a 7, and that's with everything. And they couldn't understand. I said, I don't know. I wish you could bring it down to a 2 or 3, but it was just I was in constant agony in that first week and a half, and I was trying to stay positive, as I said earlier. Like, come on, you can get through this. Like, there's people that have suffered so much more worse than this. You'll bounce back. And they kept me, fairly optimistic, saying you're young and you're active and your body should bounce back. And what they advised to do was a cortisone injection, which is the steroid injection. So I said, okay, let's organise that. They said, look, we're going to ship you off to another hospital because their unit there is a bit more, what's the word for it? A bit more specialised in your particular injuries, and we probably prefer if they can take you in. We've already organised with them. They've got a bed available, so the transfer will be immediate and take place. So, okay, no problems. Go to the other hospital. Again, I'm not going to talk about the time in there. There was so many knock-ons and drop balls, and it was very, very frustrating because and again, I don't think there was any particular malice or anyone purposely trying to make my stay in hospital worse than it was. It's just got to do with funding, I believe, and understaff and overworked staff and all that kind of thing. But again, we move on. Week and a half in the second hospital. In that week and a half, in the end, the second hospital, I personally had to outsource the cortisone injection because, again, there was knock-on after knock-on. It was meant to be done internally, and they were backlogged. And so these little things that were just over, and now we're going on to 3 weeks of essentially, here's your opioids, here's your morphine, and I wasn't feeling any better. And all I could feel was worse and sick, and I was losing weight. I was moving less and less, obviously. Part of which in that stay I just need to sort of touch on is I'm 36 and, as I said, fairly independent, fairly active person. In those 3 weeks, my body deteriorated quite a bit, which is, that's okay. But not that the hospital staff didn't offer to provide the service of, daily washing, because I couldn't move out of the bed. It was a big hurdle for me to overcome, to be quite honest with you. I'd never been in such a state where, sure, we've broken bones and we've had, cuts and abrasions and stitches and whatnot, and but not to this degree. And it was, it's where it started, like really, really hammering me, where I was like, hang on a sec, like I need someone to wash. Okay, how am I going to go bathroom? Like all these little simple things you just never think about. So, my wife would constantly wipe me down. My wife is absolutely amazing. She was rock, never left my side, and we've got a beautiful, beautiful family, a very tight-knit family. Her parents and my parents were very fortunate. We're with the kids, taking the kids to school, doing all their activities, looking at them, because my wife was literally with me as soon as visiting hours were open till beyond close, just assisting me, moving the table, helping me eat, being there for, in support, which was amazing. But I just kept feeling worse and worse mentally, and defeated, and got to the stage where, especially like when it came time for my wife to go home, it was real hard for me. Like externally, I'd have put on a facade because I've got to be strong, and I didn't want to show that I was hurting inside. So I'd say to my wife, you've been there in the chair all day, and your back's going to get sore, and your legs, and please go home. If you're rested, you're going to be better for me tomorrow, all that sort of stuff. So I used to say that to her and sort of try and lie to her to force her out of the hospital. But in actual fact, I'd inside would be, all I wanted was for her to stay. I just having someone there, even if they're not talking to you, just while you're in pain, it's just, I don't know, for me, it gave me comfort. And, she left at, let's say, 9 p.m. at night. So from 9 p.m. at night till, approximately 10 a.m. the next morning. Yes, the nurses come in to administer your pain relief, but you're in the room by yourself. There's just you on the grid ceiling, and a minute goes like an hour. And when you're in pain and you're by yourself, it's just, I don't know, I just found it a very, very, very dark time, especially after, as I said, we're getting into the third week of people telling me you should be getting better, this is uncommon, all this sort of stuff. And it wasn't. It was literally getting worse. I'd be sobbing and crying. Like I don't cry very often, probably at funerals, but I don't know. I'm not to say there's anything wrong with crying, but I was like a sobbing toddler, literally, weeping and weeping and weeping all hours, just because I just felt so shit, to be quite honest. So that was the lead up to then. As I said, I just feel the need that to touch on the importance to I don't know, maybe someone else out there is going through, sitting in the hospital bed looking at this video going, like, I feel horrible, I feel down, but I just want to make these videos to reassure you that no one could convince me otherwise. It didn't matter who stood in front of me. The most positive people I have in my life, or friends that are just like rocks, these people are just solid, telling me, come on, like, it's every day is a little. And in my head it was like absolute stonewall. It was like, nah, I'm not going to get through this. It's not getting better. It doesn't matter what you say, it's not getting better. So sorry if I've gone off path a few times. My apologies. This is basically off the cuff, but spent those 3 weeks in hospital. Felt horrible physically and mentally. Was discharged from the second hospital and told to go home, and told that, look, here's a whole lot of pills. You'll get better. Just give it time. So I went home, and I don't think I was home from, I went home late that afternoon, I believe, from memory. So I had come home, which was really overwhelming. I was excited to come home, but it was so overwhelming, the fact that I couldn't sit in my on a dining chair. I needed to sort of be braced up with pillows, and mainly I was just laying. I just really, unless I was going up to the bathroom or eating, I was literally laying horizontal. So it was so hard. It was just so difficult. And my kids are young, and they understood that his back's sore, but of course they don't understand the full concept, and it's hard to I guess convey the message properly to them so they completely understand the complexity of what's going on. And so moving forward, we have this evening at home. I'm in agony. I'm in so much pain. Like, again, got the kids to bed, tried to relax. Just, it was a horrible night, absolutely horrible night. And I was begging my wife for extra medication that had been prescribed from the hospital. And she was like, naturally, she's like, no, I can't. Like, I can't have this over my head that if I give you extra and something happens to you, I'd never forgive myself. And I was like on the ground, just couldn't move, pleading with her. Please, I just need a little bit of this pain to go, please. And I'm crying, and my wife obviously naturally started crying, and because at home there's no morphine. So anyway, we got through that night with great difficulties. The next morning, I decide to contact the physio that I'm friends with, and I've been using for a long time, using their services. They were oblivious to the fact that what had happened in the hospital and all that sort of stuff previously. So I contacted them and said, this is what's happened. Immediately they said to me, please ask your wife to bring the CT and MRI scans you've got immediately, because if you haven't sort of started getting any reference, any better, especially after the steroid injection, by this stage, I don't believe you're going to get any improvement. If anything, you're going to keep getting worse. So anyways, my wife took all those scans across, and then immediately received a phone call from them saying, we're not 100% certain, but we're probably 90% certain that you need surgery and you need surgery now. So I was taken by that because obviously I had just spent 3 weeks in 2 different hospitals and spoke to so many surgeons and doctors and you name it. Anyway, moving forward, they thankfully are affiliated with sporting teams. I don't have to mention teams again. And in that territory, there's also particular surgeons which treat these injuries, which are quite common in particular sports, physical sports. And I was quite blessed that they actually personally knew a very well-renowned surgeon, which specifically is very well known for this particular surgery. So they got onto the phone directly with the surgeon. In doing so, he was actually conducting surgery himself that day and said, the best I can do for you, as I know it seems very, very, very urgent, is have you come and see me in between surgeries. We did that, thankfully, and within 30 minutes of reviewing everything, he was like, without an element of doubt in his mind, he said, I need to admit you to a hospital where I'm doing surgery at the very least. Possibly I can get you in for a few days, and we'll go from there. So, long story short, in this back end of this first phase of the video, I ended up getting to the 3rd hospital through my private health fund, private hospital. Can't speak highly enough of them. Again, I don't want to mention hospitals, but it was absolutely phenomenal in terms of just how it was, in terms of making me comfortable. And then we got to the stage of having surgery. So we'll stop there, and then we'll talk about, in my next video, post-surgery weeks 1 and 2, and then again the physical and mental battles I had from that point. And again, hopefully someone can find a little bit of peace in knowing that you aren't alone. And as I said to you, I felt quite alone, thinking everyone on there is so positive, and which is fine. That's a good thing. And again, specifically speaking about their physical recovery, but no one ever touched on how dark it could be mentally. So I just felt that if someone could hear it from me, maybe they might say, oh, okay, I can relate, and maybe there is light at the end of the tunnel, because as I said to you, I truly believe in my heart of hearts that I was just going down and there was no coming back. So hopefully see you guys on the next video. Thanks.